journal published that traveling alone, especially to a new and diverse environment, which could be a new city, could be a wilderness, could be a cabin, any of those things, enhances cognitive flexibility and problem-solving skills. Like, you actually get better at solving problems. We just did an episode, the most recent episode that published was on how AI is killing problem-solving abilities. And this is the solo trip is deliberately tied to better problem solving. It's like the opposite of AI. It's better than AI. What's up, and welcome back to the Living Vision Show. I'm excited that you're here, and I'm going to push you today to take some time away from the show, from your life, from your people, your business, your relationships. I'm going to push you away from all of it. I'm joined tonight with Marty Nocchi, our integrator, and we're going to help you understand the value and, more importantly, schedule the time for a solo trip. This idea of a solo trip is not uncommon amongst entrepreneurs. I think the more high-level, high-frequency people you're around, the more you're going to hear about these solo trips and these reflections. And at the core of it, it's been the best thing I've done for myself. If I look at the last 5 years, 7 years, and look at what is the one consistency that's unlocked the best value, it's hands down a solo trip. And I come to you today with a lot of passion for why it's important to step away. And I fail at this. It's hard to do this. It's scary to do this. I know all that. And we're going to talk about it today so that you understand what you get yourself into, how to prepare, how to go into it, maybe some rules that you can copy from my genesis of this, and a little bit of strategy as to how to use the time once you actually have it. Marty, I'm excited that you're here. This solo trip thing, like on the nose for a lot of people, just sounds like hocus pocus, right? It's like, oh, go away by yourself for a little bit. And there's like a real magic to this, you know?
Hocus pocus.
Hocus pocus. I haven't said that since I was 7.
Longest solo trip I think I ever did was 14 days. I traveled cross country on Amtrak.
Valuable, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, I've done many solo trips long before there was talk of solo trip.
Oh, well, way to be cool. Not cool. You're so cool. You're ahead of school.
I'm a trendsetter.
You're the trend. Yes, you're the trendsetter. Well, I suppose I'm following in your wake at this point. We know that business owners suck at this. You and I have conversations with companies, with individuals. We are responsible for taking people away on solo trips in some ways. And this idea of a solo trip for many comes with a lot of resistance. Why, how, when, where? There's all the minutia that we get caught in while planning these things out. And I've got some evidence that we're going to talk through today about why they're so important. Well, let's just frame this conversation first with who we're talking to. Like, we know all of our business comes from small to mid-sized business owners. So you listening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing right now, are probably a small to mid-sized business owner. I find that the classification of this is wild. Like, Marty, you did some research on this. What does it mean to be a small to mid-sized business owner in America?
500 employees.
That is crazy. Yeah, under 500 employees.
But only, not only, 82% of them are like us, like solopreneur, one other employee. So a majority of them are more like what we're accustomed to.
Yeah, many of our clients are solopreneurs, one employee, 5. I mean, I think in totality, our team now is 8, maybe 9.
Yeah, and we're really the only 2 employees. Everyone else is contract.
Correct. And I think strategically, that's starting to be a much better avenue for a lot of people. That might be a good episode to do in the future, is why that's helpful and what that really means. Find your specialist, guys. Find your flipping specialist. But if 82% of them are that, we also know that the bulk of people that are making a big dent in their community are these small to mid-sized business owners. I believe that to my core, that much of capitalism is based on these much smaller entities really blossoming and growing up. There's an impact radius that's much bigger for small to mid-sized business owners than you think. Like the rationale that I see all the time, and I'm sure you see it when you're working with the number twos, is that, well, we're just a small business. Like nobody's watching us. Our taxes are small. We don't pay a lot into these different factions. We're not earning millions on millions on millions. And if 82% of the backbone of the country is really small companies, there's a natural propensity to underestimate your impact. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I was just doing some math while you were talking because I didn't figure out the math earlier. So I said there's considered 35 million small business. 82% are solopreneur, entrepreneur. So I figured the math. That's 29 million of them are solopreneur, entrepreneur. That the small businesses of the 30.5 trillion GDP, 40 to 50% of it is small business.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's definitely a lot. What I think is very real for the small to mid-sized business owner or the solopreneur is they are caught in a firefight daily. And because they are typically only afforded an opportunity to make their lifestyle work by solving a problem for someone else, they're actually solving mega important problems. They may feel small in the totality of things, but these are typically people working for people to solve people problems. And that makes it really important work, makes it much more impactful. And I wish I could show an average entrepreneur, right? One of those numbers of the 82%. I wish I could show them a map of their impact and influence. If everyone saw a map of their influence, I think they would feel better about themselves. They would also feel better about their work, and they might work, I don't want to say harder, they might work more intentionally to expand their map. So the map would be them and anyone they've worked with that has seen their work or the work of the client, right? The end result of the client. And then anyone that was inspired by seeing the work that the client did. So let's say a personal trainer, for example, they work with 50 clients a year, but every year it's probably 40 new clients. So over 5 years, that might be 210 people that see transformation personally, physically. Then you've got all the people that see those 210 people. And all of a sudden you have a really powerful map. I think what we're trying to say to you today is that you have a bigger impact than you know. And because of that, the idea that we're going to saturate for you tonight of taking a break, of taking time for yourself and getting recalibrated is much more important than just you. This isn't an argument for you. It's important to you, but it's bigger than you. And that's a really important reason going into this conversation about why a solo trip is the right choice and why it's an investable concept that you've got to get behind.
I mean, I would add, if you can't see that it's bigger than you, there's probably a pretty good chance that you can't see the business is bigger than you either.
Which is why you're stuck.
Which is why you can't leave.
Yeah. Not only can't leave, probably can't grow. Right? You're probably stuck in this like, well, what about me? What about me? What about me? Versus, I think a lot of our, not just ethics, but our pedagogy for how you grow a business is thinking beyond you.
Yeah, I did find a lot less than half of them take more than 2 weeks of vacation a year.
What's the point? What's the point of building a business? And look, I'm not judging. I've had many years like that. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm just saying that it's important. And let's dig into this here, Marty, because this idea of solo time means a lot of different things to a lot of people. So before we talk about why this is important, I want to, like, I don't know, tennis match, volley this thing back and forth, throw the ball across the net a couple times, and just get a sense of like, what's a solo trip mean to you? And I'll share, and then you can share, and we'll just kind of battle, because I think people need ideas about what it means to have a solo trip. Because whatever your precognition is, you're probably attached to that. This is what it should be, or this is what it's supposed to be, or this is what it needs to be.
Are we volleying tennis or pickleball? Which are we playing?
Pickleball is pretty fast. Let's do pickleball.
Well, we'll see. Why it's important is I forgot the question. Why it's important?
No, before we do why it's important, I've got some data to go over for everybody. This is like how you've done it, how you see it, like the details, the crunchy details for how someone can set this up. So one example, and then I'll give one and we'll bat them back and forth.
Well, I said at one point I just bought a train ticket for 14 days, a 14-day pass on Amtrak, and went. I knew where I wanted to stop along the way. I was allowed so many stops along the way and get off certain places. But beyond that, I didn't have a whole lot planned.
Yeah, I didn't even know you could do that.
I don't know if you can anymore, but I have done that.
I love that. Here's another example that I live into, and it's a Friday afternoon to Saturday evening in your city, staycation. Hands down, great solo trip. Go 3 miles away. There is nothing more liberating than being 3 miles from your house and feeling like you're in a foreign country. And it's not because of the hotel. I mean, you can book a luxury hotel. I like doing that. Or you can book anything, but you start to see your city different. And more importantly, you're detached while still having access to like kid, family, friends, the things you know. Like you can still kind of do your comfort, but you also have an edge of I'm not in my space.
I also typically need to get away from blacktop and concrete. So there has to be more nature oriented because there is something about connecting in that way.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Great. What's another example of what a solo trip might look like for you?
I'm doing one next week when this podcast will be coming out or thereabouts, up to the Grand Canyon, which is more just like retreat time for myself, an opportunity to reflect, but also I think creativity comes alive in those spaces.
Okay. So you've got a small duration, but intentional.
Correct. And I don't think it needs to be long.
Nice. So that's a good addition there. Yeah. It doesn't need to be.
It could be a couple days. Because I know not everyone can also, especially if you have families, you can't necessarily go away by yourself for 2 weeks.
Here's another example. I'm a big believer in these. If you can't do like a weekend or a Friday and a Saturday or a 2-day or a 7-day, then at the very least, get out of town for 5 to 6 hours. Drive as far as you can and then have 5 to 6 hours away. I'm a big fan of like the shortcut, get right to it. I do think if you're going to do something like that, if you're abbreviating this, then the drive time is actually really important. So you need 4 to 5 hours. And if you make that a 13-minute drive, you don't get time to let go of whatever's going on. So it really is important to get some solid drive time. Like I think in most cities, if you're an entrepreneur and you're in a major city, 3 hours is plenty of drive time to get really different. And a good drive time plus 4 to 5 hours of reflection, you can spend, you can leave at noon and be back home at like 9 or 10.
Part of that drive for me is also like crossing a threshold. I think living in Maryland, I would just go down to Ocean City a lot of times. There was something about crossing the Bay Bridge where there's a separation from that element of life. But same here, like as soon as I get on 17 and I head north, it's like that's behind me, and I've crossed that threshold into that space, and now it's time to put myself there.
There has to be a severance, right? There has to be a deliberate and intentional block from what you've been encountering, and the whole thing of this is extraction from what you know. Now, I'll tell you this: like I have 3 rules when I go into these like solo trips. And mind you, let me give you a little context to this. I have been doing solo trips for the better part of like 5 to 7 years. And if I look back 7 years ago, that would have been what, 2017, 2018. I was still early in business. I was still on my own, but I was fighting and scrapping and gritting my way through a lot. what I would do is every quarter I'd book a weekend. I'd just go somewhere. And these 3 rules got forged really early for what makes a good solo trip. And at the time I had a lot more luxury to get away, a lot more ease to get away, a lot more availability to get away. Like I could just go anywhere, like single dude, 28 years old. Like I just go anywhere. I go to any city and I'd be fine. Now I've got to be a bit more intentional about it as a dad and other parts of my world that are a bit more in depth and require a little bit more planning. But these 3 rules have stayed with me all the way through, regardless of how intense it is, regardless of how much entanglement you have going on. These 3 rules will set you up for a very good solo trip. Number 1, your trip has to be bookended by outside time. It doesn't matter if you're in nature, you're in the woods, you're at the beach, you're in a city. You've got to be outside. If I go to a major city like New York, I've done many solo trips to New York. You have got to be outside. Go for a walk through New York City. Charge it up. New York's electric anyway, but you've got to be outside. And that has to be the first thing that you do. So what I would do in New York, as an example, is I would plan to be in a cafe like a mile away and I would walk there. No subway, none of that. Like get out.
So that's like 2 blocks from New York. You're at a cafe.
It's right there, right? It's a mile. It's easy. In New York time, that's an hour, but for if you're walking, it's a really good way to bookend your trip. And you always bookend every trip I've ever done. You bookend the trip. Go for a walk, go for a run, doesn't matter. If I flew into a place, I would get off the plane and I would get to the hotel, and first thing I would do is run. Outside time, first and foremost. That's your bookends. The second thing is, if you're going to do this in the city that you're in, never, 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 never. And I don't think I ever say the word never. Ever, ever. Never, never have I ever allowed someone to do a solo trip at home. You cannot do a solo trip at home. No matter what you're experiencing, I don't care how entrenched you are in your business, how successful you are, or whatever story you're telling about how you can't go away. Go away. Go 2 miles, go 10 miles, go 500 miles, go 5,000 miles. Have an adventure. But you cannot do a solo trip in your place of familiarity. And there's science to that. I'm going to share that with you here in just a little bit. Rule number 3 is that every solo trip must be accompanied with an intention. That intention could just be to reflect, to look back at the quarter, plan the next quarter. That was my intention for about 5 years. I'm going to reflect on the previous quarter and I'm going to look ahead. I planned these every quarter for 7 years. I don't know how many that is. For 20, that's like 28 of these adventures. And sometimes I missed it. Guaranteed life got in the way once or twice. But going in with an intention is a critical part of how you make this valuable. You don't have to be super specific. It's not like going to a gym and being like, all right, today's leg day and I'm going to do these 3 exercises in 3 supersets and I'm going to rotate through around and I'm going to do abs at the end. No. What we're doing is we're saying, hey, I really need to reflect. I'm disconnected from my vision. I'm disconnected from my mission. I am disconnected from my team or my family or whatever it is. And going in with a general frame, a very 30,000.
Or yourself. You're probably disconnected from yourself.
Well, that feels like a bit of an attack, but here we are.
No, that is the reality for most people.
I would agree. It's not only most people, it's most entrepreneurs for sure. Yeah. Marty's launching Napalm here and I would heed.
And I wasn't doing that directly at you, but hey, if that's.
No. I don't take it that way. I know that is an incendiary comment for people, right? Hey, you're disconnected from yourself. And the intention of getting back to vision is self. The intention of getting back to your mission, self. Like, I also think that it's easy to say like, no, I got to take care of my family before you take care of yourself.
Getting back to how you feel and what emotions are coming up and everything in your body that you've ignored.
Yeah, and if you don't take care of you, everyone around you is the one that suffers. You're suffering too, but this is the difference between being selfish and self-full. Hey, I need a solo weekend to get reconnected. And I'm going to go do that for me. And that makes everybody else better. It's the best part. Everybody wins when you do a solo trip. You've obviously mastered the art of solo trips. What tips would you give to somebody that's resistant to like planning and structuring a solo trip?
Many of mine in the past, I was on the verge of burnout or just losing it. I was overworked. I was overwhelmed and felt lost. They were often survival. I would say, and I don't think I'm alone in that. And so often that was the need. However, just listening to you about outside, not at home, intention, severance, all those things were a part of it regardless. And I did it knowing that I had to confront myself. I knew that. And that, in my experience, even when I'm doing silent retreats over the years, people don't want to do it because they're afraid of what's going to come up within them in those moments, and they won't know how to deal with it because there's so much
Terrified of that.
shit in them that has just sat there, and so they're afraid to do it. So I'll just keep working harder. And so I at least had my whereabouts to know that, no, I had to do that. I had to go and confront myself in whatever way worked for me in that moment. I knew I had to do it. And it often requires a lot of rest while you're there.
Yeah, sleep is the first part. Yeah, especially if you get extended time. The running from is definitely real. Let's dig into that a little bit. So my fears when I go into these things are like, is the business going to survive? Am I going to be okay? Do I even know what I'm doing here? Why do I deserve it? Like, dude, the whole it's like the uncoiling. The spring is so wound. I remember learning in physics that the like coefficient of a spring is the letter K, right? And I think it's a fitting letter. I don't know that physicists thought about this, but I think it's a fitting letter because K, there's not a lot of K words, right? There's like, what word comes up first when you hear the letter K?
Kinetic.
Kinetic. Nice. I think of like kangaroo, kill. I think of like karma. You know, there's not a lot of K words, right? But they're all like really powerful words. They're all very aggressive and sort of, they represent the power that can be stored in this kind of object like spring.
There's no soft K like other letters. It's just
No. Yeah, it's just a hard sound, right? It's an aggressive sound. And going away feels like that's spring. And what happens if I'm unwound? What happens if the ends of the spring move? Right? I'm just going to launch into another potential problem. And going away on a solo trip can, if you're not accustomed to it, feel like you are jumping off the deep end of, I don't know. I don't even know what I would do. I don't know what I would do with myself. And I think most entrepreneurs owe it to themselves to figure out what's on the other side of that fear.
Yeah, I'm just thinking to myself, so many, especially later in my time as a priest. I mean, I would draw a boundary very clear, even with my staff. The place better be burning down if you're calling me while I'm away. It better be burning down. Because everything else can be managed by someone. Even that can be managed by someone else. I can't do anything if the building's burning.
Yeah, you're 4,000 miles away, hopefully. That seems like a lot, but well, going into a solo trip, it invites a lot of this reflection and idea. And I think that, dude, if I were to look back at my journey in solo trips, the more responsibility I carried, the larger that coefficient of friction, right? The larger the spring coefficient. So now the multiplier is like, it's 4 times as magnified for me to go away and feel like I can step back. And in that, the fear is that, dude, what's it going to look like if the spring explodes? Because I'm so wound up. And those fears involve money. They involve time, friendships, relationships. Dude, I kid you not. Going into a solo trip, I wonder, this is just like one of those fears that pops up. if I'm going to come back the same person, I'm like, what if I take a 2-week vacation?
And hopefully you don't.
And I like, I don't know, become this lazy, good for nothing, like just an empty cup. And I'm like, I'm just going to be in a coma for the rest of my life. I'm going to get a job.
It's better if I don't go. That's what you would tell me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that story is wild. Like, even if I settled my spring down and reduced attention a bit, the idea of me becoming a lethargic, good for nothing is really far fetched. It would take, like, I'd have to get addicted to like fentanyl to get there. And that's far fetched, right? That's crazy too. I've been practicing my fentanyl lean, but my balance isn't good enough for that.
I would have to have like some kind of terminal disease for that to happen with you.
Even then, I'd probably work harder, right? I'm like, oh man, I got 6 months left. What do I do? Like, I'd work harder, right? It's this imaginary barrier to a break. It's the imaginary barrier to a critical junction of self-reflection. It's also self-assessment. And the struggles that I've had with this kind of trip certainly outweigh the on the surface benefits of the trip. On the surface, the actual outcome is always magical. But there are these fears that I would venture to say to anybody listening that's an entrepreneur that really gets it. Like, don't tell me you've sold like 4 t-shirts on the weekends at the farmer's market and call yourself an entrepreneur when you have a full-time job. Don't do that shit. If you're getting after it, you're responsible for other people and you're responsible for like your team and your wages and your lifestyle, then you get it. You're wound up.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, circumstances change over time. Whenever I took on a new assignment as a priest, I was mindful that I might not be able to get away as long, so I would do sprints instead, where it might only be 1 night or 2 nights, but it was still an opportunity to separate from that. And then I was able to extend it the longer I was there, and I knew the right people were in place and it can manage, and so on and so on. So I get it, especially if it's new, but if it's not new, there should be no reason why you can't.
I'm gonna speak to you listening fast and furious right now. If you haven't booked a solo trip, I need you to ask yourself a very serious question right now, right here on this podcast, right now, live. Can you not take a solo trip? Or are you afraid of something related to doing it? I don't know what to do. I don't know what I would do with myself. I don't know. And if your answer,
I would make it even easier. Why haven't you? That's it. Why haven't you?
well, I'm pushing into a binary box because now you can't bullshit. And you're right. Like, there's a ton of reasons, a ton of excuses that we have for like, not right now. Not this quarter. I'm not sure. And you just sound like a fucking Muppet. You sound like a puppet controlled by some other narrative. If you are listening and you have not done a solo trip in a long time, this is your calling right now to put it on your calendar. I don't care. Now listen, I don't care that it doesn't happen this quarter or it doesn't happen next quarter. It could be 3 quarters from now. When you put it on your calendar and you block it, something's going to change for you. And it's important to do that blocking and tackling. It's critical to do that. Again, doesn't matter how long from now, but put it on your calendar right now.
I'm at the point where I can't wait to do it.
Yeah, regardless of whether it's scary, right?
Yeah, I'm aware of all those things, but that's part of the process is leaning into that fear. There's really nothing to be afraid of anyway. And if you are afraid, you're afraid of yourself. That's essentially what it comes down to. Because you already know that you've gone so far away from who you are that now you just need to bring yourself back.
Well, here's the quandary, right? And I hear this all the time on calls. I can't take a weekend away from the family. I can't take a weekend away from the business. And there's a dependency, almost like an unhealthy codependency in that. You need to go away from your business, whether it's 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, cut off email, cut off all this stuff, get outside, go reflect. You need to see this if the systems break. You were away recently. There were some systems that broke. We figured out what to do because the systems broke. I think it was healthy to figure out the systems break, and entrepreneurs can benefit. And if your family can't deal without you, or you can't get away from your spouse or significant other, you can't take time away from your kids, man, you're teaching some really messed up lesson to those little ones and your significant other. Let's have some healthy boundaries here, guys and gals. Let's fucking take care of ourselves.
I'll deal with life by working harder.
Yeah. That's my armor, right? That's my armor. I'll hide behind my work. I did some research on this, and I found a couple of different pieces of evidence related to solo trips and why they're so critical. So I'm gonna bat them your way, and then you can share your feedback. So one of them is that we as entrepreneurs have a very noisy mind, and unfortunately, it's our superpower. It'd be like asking Superman not to have his powers. That's stupid. What makes Superman is that he deals with his powers. He dresses like a regular dude, but he can still hear everything you're saying from 19 miles away. Can you imagine just you have the ability to see through walls? No one has ever talked about this. How far does that go? And what if you want to not see through walls? How do you turn that off? There's a lot going on in his head. So if you're asking to quiet your mind and you're asking to like control your powers, so to say, then what we can start with is imagine yourself on like a quiet walk where it's just you and your thoughts, and they might be manic.
Not might, they probably will be.
Probably. And that space, the space to be with your thoughts and not have any other demand or tether, is where transformation happens. There's a study from the University of Rochester, and they found that solitude, deliberate solitude in particular, can lead to increased emotional regulation and mental clarity. And the absence that creates that is external stimuli. You get rid of the external stimuli, and all of a sudden you have space. And space, man, space is the magic. It's space to do a solo trip, space to think, space to dream, space to refine, space to create vision. All of those things is where this comes from. And what I took away from a little bit of research was that solitude not only fosters better emotional regulation, but stepping back is really what creates a fresh look at the same business, the same clients, same customers. Because entrepreneurship it's never been this way for me. And I'm really proud of that. Entrepreneurship can be a very repetitive process over and over and over. You just get bored with like the mundane repetition of, oh, another person. Now we do the same work. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, none of that is new for me. I'm well aware of that stuff from my history. The solo time or disconnecting in whatever way that is for you is often about slowing down the mind. You're never going to turn the mind out. And we talk about this when I lead meditations. The thoughts are always going to be there. They just are. But there's another voice within you that's trying to speak, but it gets swallowed up by the noise in your head, typically. The voice in your heart, in your gut, whatever, however you want to describe that. And the only way you could really hear that voice and begin to discern that voice is by quieting the noise. Your head does not have everything that you need. If you want creativity, you got to be able to quiet the mind. You just do, because that's not where imagination comes from.
Yeah, super well said. I really think the loudness that happens in our mind doesn't allow us to solve problems creatively. It allows us to solve problems, but they almost cycle, right? Band-aid, 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 Band-aid. So I love this idea of hearing the whisper that is a bigger solution.
And bear in mind, like even scrolling on a social media site, even if you're not listening to anything, is still noise. because your mind is still interpreting whatever it sees on there. So noise isn't just noise. It comes in a variety of forms, and you got to be willing to silence that. If you can go to a place that doesn't have great internet, you're probably doing really good for yourself.
Yeah. You have to SMS somebody.
Like the Grand Canyon, I will anticipate not having great service there.
I have been up there. Yeah, it's whatever. How many 5Gs there are now? I don't even know they have Gs. Like they're on like a different letter.
LTE or whatever it is.
I think this is a critical message for people to hear now going into summer, because summer can be like, it's summertime. Like a lot of our clients are like, the kids are off and we're doing all these adventures. Okay. Also, let's take time for this. And so the second piece of this research really is about creativity. So it's a great segue into creativity. You need the space to quiet the mind and emotionally regulate. So if you're wired for stress, if you're navigating hardship, maybe challenges with business have come up, or the team, or you're really just inundated with managerial tasks and trying to get back to everything. If you're feeling scarce, if you're feeling disconnected, then cool. We can say you need space for that. But the second piece of this is really about creativity, and they're deliberately connected. I can remember what feelings I get in every city I've visited. Not that the cities are remarkably different, but I know how I feel when I'm in a new city and exploring, where I'm like walking down the street that I've never been on, and at every intersection, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know the name of this street. This is King Street. This is Prince Street. This is Monroe Street. Also, I find it ironic that every city has the same streets. Anyway, the feeling that I get in that area in wandering is one of my favorite things on solo trips. Aimless, directionless, just kind of following my intuition, is that every corner is possibility. Every corner is opportunity. Every corner is a new chance to find something I've never found before. And everything is new. And it's in that I find so much creativity. I find so much possibility. There was research from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology.
Is that real?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Like, I feel like somebody should have came up with a different name. They were like, "Hey, Dave, what do you think?" Yeah, that's a good name, guys. No, Dave, that was not a good name. So this journal published that traveling alone, especially to a new and diverse environment, which could be a new city, could be a wilderness, could be a cabin, any of those things, enhances cognitive flexibility and problem solving skills. Like, you actually get better at solving problems. We just did an episode. The most recent episode that published was on how AI is killing problem solving abilities. And this is the solo trip is deliberately tied to better problem solving. It's like the opposite of AI. It's better than AI. That's a big statement. I know that's a big statement, but I think we should publish it. I think people should attack me for it. And I think silly entrepreneurs should be like, "Aaron, no, solo trips are not for me, man." And I hope they come at me with like some fire to be like, "You know what? I can't do it. I'm just going to use AI to solve my problems." And I'm going to blast them with a tree. I'm going to hit them with a tree, with a branch. I happen to have a branch, just fell off my tree today.
First of all, if you are someone that tells yourself that you are wired for stress is not normal. You do need to find a way to regulate yourself better. It is not normal, but many of us are just tell ourselves we're wired that way. But that is a fallacy. You can study somatic work. That is a fallacy. There is an art to wandering. Preferably, I think cities are great, but also wandering in the wilderness, because we typically have a fear of getting lost and not knowing where we are, and that tells our brain danger. And so there's a lot of value in just allowing yourself to wander in the way that you had described it. Yeah, there's been a lot written not in psychology books like that, but nature-based development always speaks of wandering. Wandering is a part of the process of finding yourself.
I've learned a lot, through these cities. I'll clock miles and miles and miles. Anybody that says they're wired for stress, that would be equivalent to someone saying, I don't mind being caught under a bench press all the time. Like, okay, I get it. You can bench press. I get it. You can hit some hard reps, but why would you stay there all the time? That's stupid.
That's just been your way, and that's why it feels normal.
Yeah, it's a incredible fallacy. I think another takeaway as we move into bullet point number 3 here is that when you're in a new city or new environment, doesn't need to be a city. What starts to happen is cognitively, you have to build a new sequence. You can't do things the same way. Even if you're 3 miles away from home, you can't do things the same way. So you have to build a new neural pathway. And I'm not a neuroscientist to be able to tell you about this. I know a couple. I know a couple that think they're a neuroscientist. But more importantly, what I know is that
I play one on TV.
Oh, dude. Oh, that definitely makes it. Yeah, if you're ready, you can speak on this credibly. What I know is that, as your brain is thinking about new things, your brain is encountering new patterns, it has to start to connect ideas that are different. And I don't have the education to speak to this from that level. What I can tell you is that fundamentally, as an entrepreneur, I had these crazy ideas that I've never had before. I just start to see the problem a little bit differently, even if that's going down a road and I'm like, oh, I think I've been here before. Even if I'm mapping a city differently, I'm not thinking about, well, is our payment processor the right one? I'm like, well, does Monroe Street connect back to Prince Street? Because I don't know how to get home. And even if I'm just solving a different set of problems, I usually end up coming back to the original problems differently. And there's a lot of value in that. And if you're an entrepreneur that's running into the problem over and over and over again, this is actually a really solid way that I've been able to bounce back from kind of like decision fatigue, navigating the same problem. Like if you've had the same problem quarter over quarter over quarter, man, you got to go away like right now.
Because you're probably the problem. I mean, the word that comes to mind as you're speaking that is clarity. I think there is a clarity that comes with. There is definitely a clarity that comes if you allow yourself to be in nature, particularly, because you'll start to see things differently that you hadn't seen before, which eventually leads to clarity in other aspects of your life as well. So that's what I hear you say when you're speaking about that. There is the fatigue of making a decision, but there's also clarity that comes when we allow ourselves to be cleared.
Yeah. Yeah. Our definition of clarity it very much fits this particular topic. Clarity, the removal of unnecessary or misaligned options. Like just get stuff out. Don't even worry about the addition piece. That'll come when you have space. You need space. I was talking to somebody. I don't remember how the context came up. I had this thesis that came up in conversation. All of sports, all of team sports specifically, but all of sports, you could even do it for like tennis or pickleball or whatever. All of sports is about space. Everything in sports is about space. So if I'm playing football and I'm the quarterback, what am I reading? Space. What happens when runners take a defender away? They create space. What happens when running backs move? Space. Soccer, space. Tennis, space. All of it's space. And entrepreneurship, you know what we love to do? Make it crowded, make it dense, make it difficult, make it packed, make it slam, fill our calendars, fill our schedule, fill our blocks, fill our setters, make sure everybody on the team is like, what do we want? No space. I don't want to waste anything. But space is where all the magic is.
Yeah. It definitely gives that. Space is important. And because with space comes simplicity. If it's complex, it's hard to That I think is when it's hard to get the clarity. Space brings clarity.
Here's bullet point number 3 today. This is specifically the research came from this idea of like meditative retreats, which Marty, you spoke about many times. But, picture yourself, you're at this silent retreat. That sounds terrifying to me and probably to a lot of extroverts, where the absence of noise starts to bring out this deeper awareness, this calm, this centeredness, and leaves you feeling recharged. Even if you don't do a meditative retreat like this, there's value in this idea of retreating. Not retreating from your war, not retreating from your grapples and battles and objectives and missions. Instead of retreating from that, can you retreat from your way of thinking? Can you retreat from your way of holding on? Can you retreat from your positions and your biases? Can you retreat from those? There was a study published in, it's funny to read this word. I'm going to read it out loud. Psychoneuroendocrinology. I'm impressed that I got that on the first go. I had been looking at this word. It's like 28 letters. Like, why do we make words? Why do we make words that long? I don't know.
Every field wants their name in it.
I think that's a really valid question. Why do we make words that long?
Every field wants their name in it.
Yeah. That's like someone with 6 middle names. Like, what are we doing here? That just makes me laugh. Okay. So this study found that, this is not shocking, that meditation retreats reduce stress, lower cortisol levels, and increase mindfulness. Fuck, big shocker. Whoop, whoop. That's like saying that, like, I don't know, ice cream makes kids happy. Like, that seems silly and on the nose. But I do think that if we know that meditation reduces stress, taking a weekend away is similar to meditating. And I find that for us go-getters that are after it 1,000 miles an hour all day, slowing down for a weekend in a city that is unfamiliar feels like meditation. Even if you're not meditating for 9 hours a day, it feels that way because it's such a reduction in the velocity of the day.
It's nothing new for me. None of it is new for me. Slowing down and meditating in that way, when you silence the noise out there, the noise within you is revealed, and then you can finally begin to clear out the noise within you, and you begin to hear that voice within you, that deeper voice, and you become more alive. You just become more alive and more creative and more yourself, and yeah, you're more full.
So you have space for 28 letter words?
Space for everything when you have space.
I am going to make a commitment not to know any 28 letter words.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
I'm curious. Whoever DMs me how many letters are in that phrase, that one.
Fragilisticexpialidocious.
DM me that, I'm sending them a hat. Like, let's go. You get a free hat. How many letters are in that phrase? Challenge accepted. Well, this idea of meditation bringing focus and well-being and obviously presence and all those things, I think also is important when we talk about a solo trip and compare that to a meditative retreat. They're obviously night and day. Like, you going away from a Friday to Saturday is not going to feel the same as a meditative retreat. In fact, I can tell you that going to a pool. So here's part of my process for half year, June. I've done this for the last 3 years. I go to a pool. I've happened to go to the same one except for this year. I go to a pool and I sit there with 3 different color Post-it notes. I have green, I have yellow, I have orange. They don't make like bright red because you can't see it. But green, yellow, orange. And I go through my calendar from the beginning of the year until the midpoint, or the midpoint until the end of the year. And on green, I write down wins, victories, good moments, memories, positives, right? On yellow, I write down lessons or reflections or things that I probably shouldn't have done. They're kind of like the yellow lights of my life where I'm really intentional about, I probably would do that different, or maybe a reflection now of like, I shouldn't have done that. Or, you know what, I could do that better. That would be a great point to be like, no, I won't do that. Or no, I won't agree to that. And then the reds or the oranges are me essentially learning a boundary, a real hard line of something I don't like, something I don't want to do anymore, which might have been something great at the time, right? It might be like, I love skydiving. I don't want to skydive anymore. Or, hey, I really liked speaking on that stage, but I won't do audiences of less than 50. Whatever it is, those three things. And I'll sit at the pool. Dude, I wonder what people think about me. They're at the pool. It's Saturday at 1 and everyone's like, they're like high nooning it. They got drinks and margaritas out there, umbrellas. And there's a DJ and I'm on my lounge chair or my whatever it's called at the pool. And I've got 57 Post-it notes and there's like a marker furiously writing across a 3x2 Post-it note. I wonder what people think, but that feels meditative to me. That feel like, even though I'm around people and I'm in a new environment, it feels like a mindfulness retreat, even though it's not. And maybe that's my wiring, is that the stimuli is so there, but it feels calming to be disconnected from everything else.
This would be my advice for anyone. Have structured, unstructured time.
Tell me more.
It is very easy to carry on with the same kind of structure and intensity when I'm off as it is when I'm working. But you could have structured, unstructured time in the sense that, all right, I'm going to go to the Grand Canyon next week. And I will have somewhat of a schedule. It'll be loose. Like, I don't have to follow it to a T because I don't have to. But I will go there with an intention. Whatever that intention is, I don't know yet at this point. So the intention automatically gives structure to the unstructured time. And I go there and I just be open to wherever I feel like I'm being drawn at the time. It could be to go sit on a bench. It could be to go sit and just stare at the Grand Canyon. It could be walk down one of the trails. I don't go like, this time I do this, this time I do this, this time I do this. That's just like work. Have structured, unstructured time and just allow yourself to be led in that way. You don't have to lead in the same way, but you could be led.
So here's what I hear when you say that. Because my mind can't interpret structure, unstructured. It doesn't understand that. So maybe this is just for the guys like me that are listening, or the women like me that are just like, they're wired to be like, what the fuck? What did he just say? Because here's what I heard. Time. And I'm like, oh, well, I know how to do time. I'll just make a fucking plan. I think the best part about entrepreneurship and the like pursuers that are cheetahs is that we know how to hustle hard. We don't know what it's like to hustle slow. So when I hear structured, unstructured time, what has changed my solo reflection is this: block windows for random. So make a window from 1 to 3. It is the same thing, but like I think most people listening, they're like so elementary. You've been doing this for 10 decades. Like, I've been doing it for 5 years.
More than 2 decades I have, yes.
So you're like mastery. And when someone that's super dialed hears structured, unstructured, it's the unstructured part that's weird, right? It's like hard to grapple around. And what's been helpful for me is like, okay, 2 hours, I'm gonna go sit at the pool and like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Or I'm gonna go journal for 2 hours. And if I don't journal for all 2 hours, if I journal for 5 minutes, then fine. But that's like what I'm gonna do. Or I'm gonna go for a walk for an hour. And like, can I just let these windows exist that don't have an outcome and are different than my normal routine? I think surrender is a big part of it. How would you define surrender to someone that is so, again, the spring is so compressed that they don't know what it looks like to surrender? Like, what's surrender look like practically?
I think it's hard practically because you haven't listened to the deeper voice. The deeper voice within you will lead you wherever. Like I had said, I could just go. And there is some structure. I know, like from 8 to 4, I'm going to be there. I know that, or whatever that time frame is. Whatever happens at that point. You're essentially surrendering to the moment. Whatever. If I want to journal for 2 minutes, I'm going to journal for 2 minutes. Okay, I'm done. And then I'm going to move on to the next thing, whatever the next thing is. I personally wouldn't go and say, I'm going to journal here. I'm going to journal here. I'm going to do this. I will do all those things, but they'll come when they come. For me, that's surrendering to the moment. Now, there are things that I plan, like I do have a trip planned while I'm there. Some things you just have to do because it's part of the way it operates.
You don't have to give in to like no logistics. So what I'm hearing,
It's what we do. It's what we do on retreats. That I just do it for myself that way.
the struggle I know for people listening is going to be, how do I know what I want to do? Right? It's this fundamental.
Because I know exactly what will start to happen. I'll be fidgety. Well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to? Correct. All that anxiousness, though, is trying to speak to you. It's trying to reveal something about you in that moment. Sit and listen with the anxiousness until you feel your way through it.
That's good. Yeah, I want to get to the prep.
Otherwise, I'm just trying to get rid of the anxiousness of not knowing. It's the unknown.
Yeah, there definitely is a compulsion to check. I think email is a great example of like, well, I'm just going to check my email real fast and I'll feel better. But there's an ignorance, an ignoring of something that's trying to get out, and you can just band-aid it.
You're giving yourself a shot at that point. That's all you're doing.
Fentanyl, baby, let's do it. Email. Yeah, I can't really speak to fentanyl.
And yeah, you mentioned it twice today.
Well, it's the theme of like it's the opposite of the solo trip, right? It's just like drug. Like, can you sit in your shit? Can you stay still for a minute? And I struggle immensely with this.
Just feel through the anxious, because I know that I have been there.
Everybody has. What makes someone evolved is not their avoidance of these feelings or the avoidance of anxiety. It's how well do they sit in them? How well can you sit in your feeling and not move? How well can you feel whatever you're feeling? I want to go out to the bar. Okay. Why do you feel that way? Well, if you're able to follow that all the way out and ask really good questions, that's how I know you're evolved. So this comes up, right? Where I'm like, I want to go out tonight. Okay. Why do I want to go out? Well, I don't want to feel like I'm at home alone. Okay. Why? I want to feel connected. Okay. Why? I want to feel seen. I want to feel validated. I want someone to be like, hey bro, you look great tonight. Or like, hey, you look like you're magic. I don't know. Right. Some imaginary statement that someone says to me. Or I want to talk to someone else. Well, why do I want to talk to someone else? Because I don't want to talk to myself? Because I want to talk? Do I actually want to listen, or do I want to talk? And like, if you follow these thoughts long enough, you end up in a place where you're like, I am trying to cover something up. Because I'm not able to hear myself. And if someone asked me a question about myself, then I would vocalize how I'm feeling and what's going on in my life. And I'm not able to listen to that unless there's a prompt.
That's why I need structured, unstructured time.
Right, to listen to that.
There's space for the uncomfortableness of being there.
Yes. Yeah.
Where the silence can feel deafening in that space.
It can. And for anyone that's new to this idea of a solo trip, a lot of entrepreneurs talk about it. I know some good friends that talk about it often. The first couple times are really scary. The first couple times are really intimidating to navigate the gap between the break and the breaking. And first you go through the break of like, okay, I've I've left my laptop. I've left my phone. I got that in the hotel. Like I'm now somewhere different. And then you have the breaking when you're in the middle of fucking dinner and you're like, everything is collapsing around me. Because that's the story that's going to happen in your head. Like, everything's collapsing. You're like, it has literally been 90 minutes since you left your own city 13 miles away. And suddenly your world's going to feel like it's collapsing. And that's where your work begins. And I think every leader really has to learn how to navigate distance from their team, distance from their problems, distance from their business, distance from their vision so that they can reconnect to it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you this story. I've done retreats of all different shapes and sizes. And I used to do them in Ohio at least once a year. And there was a woman there who used to help me, a spiritual director. And I still remember saying to her at one point, why can't it always be like this? Like, why can't my life be like this? And I still remember her saying, well, it can. And it's meant to be. But I had convinced myself, and I think we all do it, that I have to go back to the normal world at that point. At some point, I have to go back to work. I have to go back. And what I would do is the Marty who was in that solo time was me. That was my authentic me. I was aligned in that moment, but that aligned person had a hard time going back into that space. And the only way you become aligned in that way is by making that time and creating that space and finding that silence so that you can bring yourself back aligned into your functioning world.
Totally. When you play Mario Kart, strange fucking way to segue. Marty is Wario. If you guys knew how Marty laughs when he pranks you, he sounds just like Wario.
We're going to do a podcast in the new Mario Land or whatever it is. At Universal Studios.
Yeah, we should definitely do that. So when you play Mario Kart, I don't know if we got any other Nintendo geeks out there, but when you play Mario Kart, you can set up where you run a race by yourself if you're playing by yourself, and then you can let your ghost run the race, and you can do it again. So you can kind of compare these two things. The best way I can describe what a solo retreat truly does, there's a version of Aaron that's racing all the time, and he's fast. He goes 1,000 miles an hour, and he's running this race. And then there's the inner version of me, the creative, the artist, the connector, the like inner version of me when I was a kid that just wants to be and can be and play and laugh and enjoy and relax. And he moves at like 2 miles an hour. And when you finally get to a solo trip, the entrepreneur version of Aaron, the mask, the armor, is forced to stop, and little Aaron can finally catch up. And then the two end up merging. And it's a beautiful moment of like, oh, I can. And the reason I do this quarterly is because that's about the time and distance it takes to get completely disconnected. In 90 days, you can get completely disconnected.
And that little creative you is not going to pick up the pace. You have the ego you has to slow down and let that self catch up.
Yep. I shared it with you. I wrote a song for my brother for his birthday, and I was listening to it in the car because the car acoustics have always felt safe to me. The car has been a safe place since I was like 16, and I was listening to the car. I'm very emotional, and the process of writing his song for his birthday is tomorrow, and like summoning that up, it has forced me to slow everything down. I've had to put down so much in the last, I've been writing it for like 6 days. I'm going to write. And my entrepreneur mind is like, nope, not valuable. Nope, doesn't make any money. Don't do it. It's like the most important fucking thing.
People live so backwards.
Yes. Inside out and backwards. If this isn't enough to convince you to take a solo trip, I don't know what is. I'll mail you, I'll carrier pigeon you, whatever kind of injection you need to make this a priority, whether that's truth, whether that's When we talk about fentanyl all day.
Who still resists it, I suggest they speak to me, who's done them forever, because I will get to the heart of it very quickly as someone who's done it many times over.
There's your challenge. If you are really hesitant to do this, or you have a reason that you haven't, talk to Marty. Send us a message. Jump on his Instagram, jump on mine. Send us a message. Say, hey, solo trips are stupid. Solo trips, I can't do it. I can't. And we're going to set you up one-on-one with him. Maybe we should record that and put that shit out on the air, like a live radio call. That would be epic, dude. What I want you to do, though, is I want you to put it on your calendar. That's what I want you to do from this podcast. I want you to, wherever you are, even if you're driving, whenever you land and stop and slow down for just 2 minutes, put something on your calendar that's a solo trip. If that happens to be sooner than later, it doesn't have to be at the end of the quarter. It could be the middle of a quarter. It could be whatever weekend. I don't care. But it has to go on your calendar, and it has to go on your calendar now. No excuses, no bullshit. You don't even need to book it right now. Block it first. You block it first, then you book it, then you prep. That's how it works. Block first. Don't try to prepare before you've blocked it. Block it first, then you can book it, figure out the logistics, where you got to go, what tickets you need, all that. Then you can do the prep as you enter into it. I know you can do this. I know you can. And I know you need to do this. So here's your wake-up call to book your solo trip. Marty, give us some parting words on like solo trip for the one person that's listening. What do they need to know right now?
Your life depends on it. That's a big statement. That's a bold statement, but your life depends on it.
To the point that we started with, there's a lot of entrepreneurs in this country. Your impact radius is bigger than you. When you do this, everybody in your node system is better. Everybody. It's so critical. Your life depends on this. Do not mess around. If you love this podcast, send us a note, leave us a 5-star review. We appreciate that. I hope you're living into your vision. My vision has always been to do these once a quarter, and that's been a consistency. Build this into your vision, build this into your business, build it into your family, make it a priority. And when you go through it, send us a note on the other side. I promise it'll be a good investment. Thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe for more. We'll see you on the next one.